This week on Moonshine and Music.
In the hardest part of waking up is it doesn't mean a thing. No, it doesn't mean nothing.
That dissolved, as many bands do, just over time. And then I still wanted to be in the full band, but I wanted kind of a drama-free situation where I can selfishly pick and choose who I play with, and that's what ultimately started the Graveyard Shift. So that's my whole life story, so thank you, Joe. Here we are again.
No, man, I mean, thanks for... Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 21 of Moonshine and Music, the perfect music show. My name is Joe Shelton, and I am happy to be here with you today. I am so happy that you've chosen to join us on this occasion. We have Jeff Kelly in the studio. He's the lead singer, frontman, and kind of owner of Jeff Kelly and the Graveyard Shift, which is a fantastic indie band. They have a new record that just hit the shelves. It's just called Jeff Kelly and the Graveyard Shift. You can find that everywhere. Please go check it out. Jeff's a good friend of the show. He is a fantastic dude, a lot of fun to hang out with, and I think you're going to enjoy the interview and their performance. So hang in there for a moment. We want to thank Brent Smith for being the host of these episodes at his house where we shot these on his back patio, which became the studio for a little bit. I want to thank Eat New Media. Go to eatnewmedia.com. They're our production partner. And we will see you on the other side. But check this out. It's a great interview. It's a lot of fun. Jeff is a funny guy. And you're gonna really enjoy the interview. And then stick around for a fantastic performance at the end of the show. So without further ado, it's time for Moonshine and Music. All right, man. Welcome to Moonshine and Music. We're here with Jeff Kelly today on this episode. Jeff Kelly is the solo artist and the lead singer of Jeff Kelly and the Graveyard Shift. Although the Graveyard Shift is an ever-shifting group of shifty folks, as I remember.
That's a great bio that I should probably use in the future. Yes, it's a great shift of shifty folks. The Graveyard Shift.
So, we start off the show with birth and we move up. So, where were you born?
Next question, please.
You don't know, or you're not aware, or?
The 80s was weird. I came from a glass vial.
The 80s were weird.
I kid. So I actually grew up in Massachusetts. Back in the day, I had somewhat of an accent there before Indiana took that away from me. I grew up in a small town called Stowe, Massachusetts, S-T-O-W. We were renowned for two things, and that was apple orchards and golf courses. Outside of that, it was a very small town, situated about 25 miles west of Boston and about 25 miles east of a town or a city called Worcester, similarly spelled to Worcester.
But not pronounced like that at all.
Correct. No, not in the
Unless
least.
you want to be pegged as a tourist.
Correct. Somebody would kill you. Yeah, they would. I mean, murders happen, but not over stuff like that.
Well, at least we hope.
The world's crazy now.
Oddly enough, my older brother was born just outside of Boston at Fort Devens.
Okay. Very familiar.
My dad was in the Army, so the area is a little bit familiar to me because of that. Growing up in Massachusetts, what was the name of your schools? Where'd you
Whoa.
I mean, we're branching out here. We're going national.
I hope the government's not listening in on this.
They are.
Okay.
Yeah. We're on the FBI Wi-Fi here.
To be honest, I cannot recall the name of my preschool. But I did have that
you did have a preschool experience.
Yeah, and then followed that up. I was in a parochial system for the better part of, let's say, upwards of 7 years. I went to a school called St. Michael's. He's a saint. He's known for slaying demon dragons.
Right.
Pretty cool stuff. So I was there for quite a while. Fun fact: I'm actually a triplet. So there's 2 more that were duplicated similar to me in the lab, except they're women.
Some would say that's not too dissimilar.
No, but I will say we were products of fertility drugs of the 80s. That was the thing. My mom and dad wanted more children, and they had a gift. They had 3 of us, which by most standards isn't a gift. That's just a financial burden. I went to school with my sisters for the better part of 7 years at a place called St. Michael's. I honestly enjoyed it. It was a very small school. I think we may have had a class of around 25 to 30 kids total. And that's the way I lived my life for probably up until 7th grade. And then after that, went to a middle school. It was a public school in Stowe. And there I kind of got acquainted to not having to wear a uniform, and it's where I found a kinship with BMX bikes and skateboards and girls and dances, and it was a really good time. So then from there I went to a parochial Catholic high school called Hudson Catholic. Again, like 45 kids. It was in a town called Hudson, Mass, which is just a town away from where I grew up. And then, I was there for 4 years, like most high school educations, and then played a bunch of sports.
What'd you play?
Football and hockey.
Yeah?
So, yep.
What position did you play in football?
Oh, Jesus. We were a small school, mind you, so I played whatever they needed. There was 1 year where I was just a nose guard.
And you were a nose guard?
I was nose guard and center in special teams. I started out freshman, sophomore year. I could catch anything. So I was the shortest wide receiver probably in the league. But, man, I could catch. And I was also a long snapper, punt return. And then come sophomore year, my hands just, they became, butterfingers. So they moved me to fullback because I had always been a stout guy. And if you stay low, you're good. So I like to hit people. I'm very competitive when it comes to sports. So fullback was a great position for me. And then on defense, I was a linebacker, inside and outside linebacker. And I like to smack people, man.
What was your number? Did you have a number like most sports guys? Like I'm 77. If you see,
it was 6.
Any jerseys that I have my number on them because I get them customized for me.
Yeah, in football it was 6. In hockey it was 8. So,
that's cool. You were a single-digit guy.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think it's funny how whatever number you are in sports, it ends up being some of your favorite numbers in real life.
True.
It's a weird statement to say out loud, but I do.
Sports guys get it, but everyone else is like, that's so weird.
6. That's cool. Put them together, 86. That's the year of my birth.
Wow, that's interesting. So I just had a flash to something really strange. I have when I first started playing music was in like 85, and we had this songbook. It had like all of the sheet music from 85, and then we had another one from 86. It was called Platinum 85, Platinum 86. I don't know what happened to the 85 one, but I still have the 86 one on my bookshelf. You said you were born in 86, and it flashed to the my brain went there, and I'm like, damn, I'm old. So old. So
they call those hot flashes?
They might be. I might be having hot flashes at my elderly state. So thanks, Jeff. You've now made me feel old. And
it's okay. That's what I do.
Not only are you old, but you have menopause.
I have mental pause. I don't know about menopause. I think that's a female thing, but
Menopause almost sounds like a Marvel character.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that Marvel character would be dressed in something really strange if we...
Probably something like light and loose clothing, I would assume. Something fitting.
Especially on a day like today.
Yeah, it's warm.
So as you... you went to college too. Let's get that out of the way.
Yeah. So after high school, through high school, I worked in warehouses and landscaping. I loved landscaping. I loved being outside. I had no interest whatsoever in being behind a desk. Still don't. But at the same time, I grew up in Massachusetts, and I was somewhat of a homebody. I liked being close to home. But I had no interest in plowing. So that kind of ruled landscaping out in the winter months. So I basically did a dartboard approach to college where I had no idea what I wanted to pursue. And just went down a list and saw civil engineering as an option. It was something that's pretty comprehensive in terms of the disciplines within the singular discipline, to where I can, even back then, I knew I could kind of mold and shape my future education into whatever I really wanted it to be, even if I had to be behind a desk. So ended up in school at a place called Rochester Institute of Technology up in Rochester, New York, and it was a 5-year program. So from the age of 17 onward, I was away from home, and I've never really been back. So it's been this kind of interesting migration out west from Massachusetts to New York, here to Indiana. So
so you're a civil engineer in the daytime, right?
By day, yep. I'm a civil engineer specializing in water and wastewater, but I also enjoy and am currently doing a lot of construction inspection. So it keeps me away from the desk as much as I can, which is good.
So, pursuing that, where did the music start? Were you 12, 10, 5?
No. Interestingly enough, the music really didn't start until I moved to Indiana post-college. I moved here not really knowing anybody, and I had seen the Foo Fighters the summer before, and I saw Dave Grohl smash a guitar.
Fantastic band.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've heard of them. They're kind of underground.
Yeah. If you haven't heard of the Foo Fighters, yeah. I mean, you're missing out.
But I saw Dave smash this pristine gloss black Elvis Dove model Gibson into smithereens, and I saw the entire stadium erupt. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. So for a long time I had molded over, man, it would be cool to play an instrument. Man, it would be... I embrace forms of meditation, and I'm kind of an introspective and reflective person. So music to me is a really great form of meditation, and I knew it even back then. So saw Dave play, and then subsequently moved to Indiana. Didn't know anybody. Lived about a block away from the Vogue on College Ave. So I'd see these neon lights all the time. And I saw so many great shows the first year I was here, which was in 2009, and bought this this blue Ibanez acoustic. The strings were probably a good inch off the fretboard, and that's how I thought people played, man. So I just thought it was a torturous affair. But the first month I was here, my job got put off a month, so the contract hadn't gone through for the work I was going to be doing. I was broke. I spent everything I had just to move to Indiana. Spent it on the first and last month's rent, and didn't have a job. So what I did was every single day, I had this guitar. Every single day I would go to the nearby Starbucks and open up a bunch of tabs on their free Wi-Fi, leave the tabs open, and then come back to my house, which didn't have electricity, didn't have cable, had water, like just the bare necessities. And I would open up that laptop and just practice songs. So I think I learned relatively. I mean, I didn't start playing until I was about 23 years old, and I'm going on 32 now. So it's been a minute at this point, but I definitely was a late bloomer. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's pretty neat. I was 36 when I started playing guitar, but I played piano when I was a kid. So.
Sure. Well, yeah, having that musical background probably helped a little bit.
Yeah, it's not the same as like starting from scratch. I mean,
sure.
But I understand the perils of being a little bit older and starting to play guitar. You're in there with like I took lessons and I was in there with like little kids.
Yeah.
Like some 8-year-old would be in front of me, and you're standing outside the door and he's playing like, perfect. Like perfect whatever it is, and I'm like, okay, well, I feel like I might be able to accomplish something because that guy's 8 and he's killing it.
Sure. Yeah.
So. But when did you start writing songs? So you started playing then, and you were using the tabs like you found on the internet?
Yeah. And I think it's very important to, as a musician, as an artist, as a person, exercise and go outside of your comfort zone. So how that started with me, where I remember going to a venue here in Indianapolis, at the time affectionately called Locals Only. It's a building that's still there, right next to the Mousetrap. But at the time, it was this small dive. It was when you could still smoke in Indiana. So it was gross. Like, it was just this smoky room. And I went simply to witness an open mic. I heard through the grapevine there was something there. This must have been back in 2009, 2010. And I saw a bunch of people that I still see every now and again now, but I was just enamored. I was like, man, like the guts it takes to get up on that stage. Retrospectively, there may have been 5 people in the audience and the rest were musicians, but at the time, I thought they were gods and goddesses, and I thought it was incredible that they had the guts to share themselves. So I saw that and kind of instantly knew, holy crap, this would be really cool to do at some point in my life. Someday I might get up on a stage, someday. And then kind of to exercise my own limits and get out of my comfort zone, I recorded a bunch of cover songs. So there's this bootleg disc out there of me doing a bunch of cover songs before I knew how to sing, just songs I enjoyed, songs I loved, and made almost a compilation bedroom CD of these songs and just gave it to a couple friends of mine, in part as a sense of encouragement, see what they thought. I'm terrible with criticism. I take it to heart and it crushes me every time, but I also really enjoy it in that respect. So
well, it makes you try harder, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love trying hard. I'm a hard worker and I'm constantly striving to improve, and I'm my own worst critic. So released that, and people were like, you got to keep doing this. Like, there's something there. It needs work, but there's something there. And then eventually that transpired to where I decidedly went on Craigslist when Craigslist was a little bit more fluid. Like, people actually used it. The Close Encounters and the Women for Men sections were actually pretty approachable. I mean, you could find a good date. That's not true. I stayed away from that. But I did go to the music section because this was before Facebook was hot. This is before there were other avenues to really pursue to finding bandmates. And at the time, I just had my job, civil engineering, where 90% of the people were significantly older than I was. Probably the next in age, they were in their 30s. And now as a 30-year-old, going on 32, it's hard to imagine me just hanging with a 23-year-old. So I didn't really have friends there. So I went online to the World Wide Web and found a friend through Craigslist. So I started getting again out of my comfort zone and playing guitar and just jamming with people I met on Craigslist. And from that formed my first band. So
was it initially called the Graveyard Shift? Or
no, man. I wish the first name was as cool as the Graveyard Shift. The first band I was ever in, it took a long time to really think of a name. And even then, I tried to approach it almost as a business savvy approach for no reason, because we had never played a freaking show. I tried to find a name that was ungoogleable, like that it didn't pre-exist, and I went with Big Brown Moose.
Okay, Big Brown Moose.
Big Brown Moose, and
that's interesting.
Yeah, it was fine. It was fine, and met a drummer who I'm still friends with today, a guy named Steve Mazurkowitz. He had a connection. His mother owned a bar in Greenwood. At the time, it was called the Rock House Cafe, which for a number of years was quite popular. It's no longer around. So it was kind of a great in to a music scene. So Steve and I played and recruited other artists and affectionately formed Big Brown Moose. And we played a handful of shows. It dissolved relatively quickly, but at the same time, it was probably the best growth period for me in some ways, in terms of a songwriter, because I was pitted with this band, and we had to play tunes, and they wanted to play original tunes, and nobody was up for the challenge. I'm terrible at remembering lyrics to pre-existing songs. Awful.
I've witnessed that.
Yeah.
I think we were at Fountain Square Brewery, and we were doing the thing where we all had to do cover songs.
No.
Under the influence, and you like.
I routinely bomb.
I was laughing.
Routinely bomb, and you just try to make it affectionate, and you try to make it an endearing thing.
I actually thought it was. I thought your performance was cool because you weren't afraid to just go.
So
yeah.
Never apologize for messing up. Bring the crowd together as if we all messed up, and that's the key to success. But
your fault, guys.
So
you really made me a little off and a little scared, so I messed that up. But I'll try again.
I mean, this crowd is just so beautiful that it's very difficult to pay attention to what I'm doing. That kind of thing. And so it was a really great opportunity for me to start writing. And there's still songs that I play today that I wrote back then. And that was 2011. So in 2010, I put the guitar down for the better part of 8 to 12 months. So I played for a year, basically put it under my bed. And then my significant other at the time, I pulled it out one day, and she's like, I didn't know you could play guitar. And she's like, you got to keep doing that. And so I picked it back up after a year. And in 2011 is when I formed the beautiful Big Brown Moose. And we played our first show. The first ever show was at the Melody Inn. I still play there quite a bit. And what I love about the Mel is it's a bar that gives everybody a chance in some way, shape, or form. So I brought Big Brown Moose there, and it was a day I'll always remember, because that day I met Phil Sloan and Coup d'etat. It's a band that's no longer around, unfortunately, but Phil routinely plays in the Graveyard Shift, my current band. And I met a great friend, a girl named Kristen Ford, who lived in Boston at the time, lived in Chicago prior to that, and currently lives in Nashville, Tennessee. And she and I have remained great friends from it. So Big Brown Moose was not in vain. Short story.
A band that shall not be lived in vain.
Short story. One time we were asked to play a motorcycle festival. Mind you, at the time I didn't know how to sing my songs yet, and at the time they were very acoustic in nature. And I just remember there was one guy in the audience clad in leather. He brought samurai swords to the bar. And so he had his samurai sword out when he was drinking a beer. And I remember halfway through our set, during this motorcycle festival, he said, Big Brown Moose, more like Big Brown Shh. And I don't know who's listening, but...
Oh, you can use... We put an E. There's a little explicit.
Sure. Big Brown Shite. And I said in the microphone, sir, I don't think you're wrong. But it was just funny, man. So Big Brown Moose dissolved. And that's when I started doing the solo stuff. I that's when I really embraced open mics. So I started going to a place called Lazy Days Cafe. And Lazy Days is currently 10 Johnson Avenue in Irvington, a really beautiful little village within Indianapolis. And there I met a number of players. The first night I ever played there, in the audience was Bryce Taylor, JJ and Irina from Delta Duo, Don Smith, Ben Brashear, a girl named Suki Conley, Caleb Hawkins, as well as a litany of others. And I mean, how nervous can you imagine being? That's your first time playing out as a solo artist.
Did you play early in that? Because like, if you were one of the early ones, it might not have been as nerve-wracking as after you heard all of those people play, because they're all really good local musicians. And
no, that's what made it nerve-wracking.
You're like 8th or something behind all these people.
I was not first, and so I heard all these people, and it was a quiet room. At the time, Lazy Days, that's where everybody went, and it was just this beautiful, like almost Greenwich Village kind of vibe where everybody was feeding off each other, and it was a great time to be a solo songwriter. That was back in 2011. And I spent the better part of a year just playing solo, learning my songs, developing as a solo artist, and subsequently met through the grapevine a girl named Ayanna Miller and Cody Roberts, who were doing a duo thing called the Orchard Keepers. And they're still around today, but their approach to music now is a lot heavier. Awesome. It's like punk meets rock meets whatever Ayanna wants to do at the time. Ayanna is an amazing songwriter. Cody's an amazing bass player and musician. And I was with the Orchard Keepers for the better part of a year and a half. And that was where I started meeting people like Ben and other musicians outside of the solo realm, because they gave me an opportunity to jump into a full band. And you know, there's a big difference between being a solo artist and being in a full band. Just the types of shows you can get, the lineups, the publicity, and the promotionary efforts on the venues are a lot greater than if you're a solo artist. So I played with them for quite a while. I played bass, mandolin, guitar, vocals, harmonica, and banjo. I don't know if I said that.
No, you haven't mentioned the banjo.
So every gig was very labor intensive. I mean, I had a lot of crap in my car, but it was a great time.
So you had all those different instruments in the car all the time?
Yeah.
Or? Wow.
Well, I mean, I take them out after gigs and stuff, but that's a lot to haul for one person.
Yeah.
But it was a really great growth period musically. Playing that many instruments, it gets your mind thinking a little bit more, and your brain has to be a little bit more flexible. So Orchard Keepers was great. Eventually, they kicked me out of the band because I was the old man. At the time, I was probably 26. And they had just turned 18 or 19, and they wanted to go in more of a punk direction, and my solo stuff was taken off a little bit more, so it was fine. And it wasn't like a bad breakup or anything. They're amazing people, and that gave me a chance to do the solo stuff a lot more. Did that for quite a while. Came out with an EP in 2013.
What's the name of the EP from 2013?
It's an album called My Fair Share. And I think it had 8 songs on there, so it was a relatively long EP. And then...
yeah, it was like a EPLP.
Yeah. An ELP. ELP.
An ELP.
ELP. And then did that for a while, did the solo thing. Joined a band called The Prowlers and the Prey for over 2 years. It was like the Fleetwood Mac of Indianapolis, man. Like, it was just a great band. That dissolved, as many bands do, just over time. And then I still wanted to be in the full band, but I wanted kind of a drama-free situation where I can selfishly pick and choose who I play with, and that's what ultimately started the Graveyard Shift. So that's my whole life story, so thank you, Joe. Here we are again.
No, man. I mean, thanks for sharing all those like places in between. I do want to talk a little bit about the Graveyard Shift and the new record because
absolutely.
I mean, and then the name of the new record is, or you know,
Jeff Kelly and the Graveyard Shift. So it's kind of a self-titled endeavor.
So I know that you worked on it really for a long time. We were. I know one of the things was when we were first doing the show, and a little background is that Brandon, the other producer, and I met because Jeff introduced us through the grapevine because I was looking for somebody to do some video work. And so like the first person on our list was, we want Jeff Kelly to do the first show. And then you were doing your album, and it was like, I have to do it later, guys. So, you know, I know you were working hard on it for a long time.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and it came out not long ago. And, you know, it's out there on everything for you to hear. But talk a little bit about some of the songs that are on it and kind of, you know, what you were going for.
Yeah,
I think as a unit, you know.
As a unit, this was really my first endeavor doing a full band recording. In that alone, I think this was really a big obstacle for me. I had no idea how to orchestrate, how to produce, and it was a stressful thing. It was a very stressful thing, and the players I had on the album were incredible. And at first, I think I was nervous around them, when in actuality. And now they've become great friends, everybody on that album. It was really a labor of love. So that album of 11 songs really spanned from 2011 until 2018. So there's quite a bit of songs that are older, some that are newer, and it's really an album about experience. So musically and lyrically, I try to write from the heart. It's very honest, but I try to make it very approachable and very universal. And so I think it's an album that almost reads as a journal, a lot of the songs. There's a few outliers, like a song called Lead in My Veins, which I think is a dumb song, but at the same time, it's really fun to play and hear. And you need that. You need to break up the monotony of sad stuff. Like there's too many white guys with guitars playing sad songs, and I'm really trying to embrace the fun side of music. And that album it took several months to simply record, not even mix and master. And during that time, we scrapped a bunch of stuff, we redid a bunch of stuff, all with the intent of making it sound live, making it sound real, and approach it as if you were hearing me write the lyrics out. Like I really wanted it to be an honest album. So I really didn't try to mask my vocals in any way, shape, or form, as much as I would love to have done that now. But it's raw. It's raw, and it's who I am. It's who I was with. And I think I love that album for that reason alone.
You know, I know that exact feeling like you're talking about there, because I did the same thing when I made my first record. I just wanted it to sound raw. I wanted it to sound raw. I wanted it to sound that way. And then after it's done, you're kind of like, you know, I think it's this way with any recording. I could have done that a little better.
I could have polished that. I could have put some compression on the voice.
You know, maybe we could have had this, you know. But I think it's a great effort. I've listened to it through several times. And, I mean, my favorite song on it's the River Song. It's the last song on the record. And I don't know if it's because, you know, I've seen you play live a lot of times, and the River Song really always gets a reaction from the crowd.
That's a great ender. I mean, it gets hot and heavy and loud, and gives me a chance to exercise a little bit of my fingers and play some lead work as well. And I think it comes as a surprise, where I feel like this city identifies me as a songwriter first and foremost. But I think at the end of the day, I strive to be a performer. And it shouldn't matter what you're singing, or I don't think you should have a style per se. It's what comes from the heart. Sometimes I want to growl, and I love to growl, man. Just as much as I love to try and hit some falsetto stuff. It all goes hand in hand.
So, do you feel like any artists were, I know you worked with a lot of artists. Did you have a core group, or how many people and worked on the record with you? I mean, different players, and I know Charlie Ballantyne was on a lot of the songs.
There was a genuine core group. For all the keyboard work, I had Mina Cohane. Drums were all performed by Kevin Hood. Lead guitar was a real mix of Charlie and I. The better sounding stuff was Charlie. And then Phil Sloan, who was formerly of Coup d'etat, he laid it down on bass. And then I had two females, Kira Waltz and Amy Nash, both did vocals. I had Carrie Goodspeed, who was the recording engineer, play Shaker on Rich Man for a Day. And then I had Kelsey Arnson, affectionately Kelsey Strauntz, or Kels Strauntz, who currently plays a lot with Fisteria and other bands, Fame and Fiction from Nashville. She did all the cello and violin work on the album. So it really, we had a lot of people on that damn album. And I'm glad we did, because it really allowed each song to breathe. And it allowed me to exercise both the more subtle as well as the louder stuff, all in one nice 11-song package, and that was pretty cool.
Well, I think it's a good album, and you guys should go out and listen to it. We'll have the links in the show notes to Jeff Kelly. I love his earlier website named Jeff Kelly Loves Dogs.
It's a crowd favorite.
We shouldn't get away without talking about your love of dogs anyway.
Sure. The short story is I love dogs. The long short story is that my best friend in the world is my roommate. He's a Shepherd Husky mix named Moose. And Moose and I have gone back for a long time. And he's just the freaking best, man. I've always loved dogs. One thing I used to tell my mom, she'd ask me what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I said I really didn't care what I'd be when I grow up, as long as I live in a trailer home with Shepherd Husky mix. I have a little bit of an upgrade with a little bungalow here in Indianapolis, but I do have the Shepherd Husky mix, and I love him to death, man. He's the best part of my life.
And if you go find Jeff on social media, you get to see Moose. He's all over there.
Yep, he's a great brand. I use him for the brand, man, because he's so cute. And women like it, And I'm trying to expand to that demographic, like women in general. They seem to buy more albums, whereas guys just talk about your gear, and they like your guitars and stuff.
That's interesting. I'm gonna have to redirect my marketing strategy.
That's all you gotta do. You gotta do. Just come up with an affectionate website.
When we go, oh, you're a beautiful dog, but the guys go, hey, dude, nice Gibson.
Yes.
Is that the okay?
So you could have Joe Shelton pets cats.
Well, I don't. I have 3 dogs, so I'm a dog guy, and that's part of why I think it's cool.
I think Joe Shelton pets cats. That might also be an adult website as well.
Yeah, that could be. I'm sure there's probably a Joe Pets Cats website somewhere.
We can look it up later. You can add a link at the bottom of the page. Joe Pets Cats.
But that's a good thing.
You should though.
Anyway, you want to play some acoustic songs for us today?
I would hate to.
But you're going to anyway?
Yep.
All right, man. That's great. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Joe.
It's really great to have you here.
Likewise.
Thanks for introducing me to Brandon. We've had a great time putting together the show. It's partly your fault, whatever this becomes. So.
Also, thanks for not coming earlier on, because instead of you, get Megan Martin. I'm happier to date her than you.
Exactly. I'm pretty good at back. I'm a good back rubber.
Yeah.
The things I could do to you, Brandon.
I'm like, man, I want that motherfucker to walk my back.
He might change your entire perspective. You don't even know. All right, well, let's get some tunes right after this on Moonshine and Music. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, man. That was fun.
Next week on Moonshine and Music, we will have John Martin in the house, and he will chat us up. It's a great interview. It's probably one of our most music-centric interviews. So stick around for that, and you'll get to hear great music like this.
Hello, trouble. Come on in. Trouble, trouble, welcome home. We make.
The song is called Doesn't Mean a Thing.
You woke up next to a stranger with your ordinary life, both too young to die alone and too old to feel alright. She was a victim of oppression. You were always in your mind, but at 4 a.m. this morning you were both feeling more alive. Close your eyes, you will see the girl that got away. Close your eyes, I will be the man you need a man to be. And the hardest part of waking up, saddest part of us, the hardest part of waking up is it doesn't mean a thing. You say you're working in the morning, I don't say a goddamn thing. All these scratches on my back are a roadmap to lonely nights like these. You grab your shirt from off the dresser, it was embroidered with your name, and the last words that we said simply didn't mean a thing. Close your eyes, you'll see the girl that got away. Close your eyes, I will be the man you need a man to be. And the hardest part of waking up, saddest part of us, hardest part of waking up is it doesn't mean a thing. You woke up next to a stranger with your ordinary lives, both too young to die alone and too old to feel alright. She was a victim of oppression. You were always in your mind, but at 4 a.m. this morning you're both feeling more alive. Close your eyes, you'll see the girl that got away. Close your eyes, I will be the man you need a man to be. And the hardest part of waking up, saddest part of us, and the hardest part of waking up is it doesn't mean a thing. No, it doesn't mean nothing.
Something like that. The song is called Alive.
cut myself open, bleed out each drop. I will burn out my eyes just to share in your sun. My smile, though pain does a guide when I'm lost. I will hold on to hope till all hope is gone. Seen you grow distant, your dreams out of sight. I will lay there beside you, toss and turn in the night. And I keep on thinking, what could I do right? You're an old faded picture in that frame placed bedside. And I recall the first time we met, was fire in your eyes. The world was in your corner, me by your side. You were alive. You were alive. You were alive. You were alive. Drag me through the fire, coals under my feet. Let's walk hand in hand till we're both buried deep. Your heart is an ocean, my love is the sea. And your lips are the sirens, your rocks beckon me. And I recall the first time we met, there's fire in your eyes. The world was in your corner, me by your side. You were alive. You were alive. You were alive. You were alive. And I cut myself open, I'd bleed out each drop. I will burn out my eyes just to share in your sun. My smile, though pain is a guide when I'm lost. And I'll hold on to hope till all hope is lost. I will hold on to hope till all hope is gone.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Is that your first song?
What do you mean?
No, he didn't.
No, I did one. I did one. Just make me so
Are
nervous.
you new at this?
Yeah. Very new. And try this. This is a song I wrote called Dim in Your Arms. Mama, I'm lonely, but I'm keeping busy. This town's gonna eat me alive. Oh, this town's gonna keep me alive. We're a quiet old city, and the women are all so pretty. But home is always on the back of my mind. No matter the proof, this whiskey just won't do. I am drunk at the thoughts on my mind. And this town's gonna eat me alive. Pour me a glass, let me fall flat on my ass. These are my days.
decisions to make, and I'm gonna make them. And I'm finding my way to your heart. It's a road seldom traveled in the night when it's dark. And my heart, it generates sparks for a lantern that burns so dim in your arms. No matter the words that I say, oh, I'll miss you like hell each and every day. I have all of these thoughts on my mind every day, in every way. And I'm finding my way to your heart. It's a road seldom traveled in the night when it's dark. In my heart, it generates sparks for a lantern bed burns so dim in your arms. Mama, I'm lonely, but I'm keeping busy. This town's gonna eat me alive. Oh, this town's gonna keep me alive. A quiet old city, and the women are all so pretty. But home is always on the back of my mind. Oh, home is always on the back of my mind. Oh, home is always on the back of my mind. Oh, home is always on the back of my mind. Voice cracks and all.
Yeah, see, that's Jeff Kelly right there. Go and check out some of his shows. Find his music online. You'll love all of the recorded stuff. I love this song called River Song. He didn't perform that today, but you can find that on his new album. That's on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, like Amazon, everywhere. So go check it out. And we'll be back next week. You're going to get to see a fantastic show with John Martin next week. We are very, very happy to have him in the studio for the show. So we'll see y'all next time on Moonshine and Music. Moonshine and Music is a presentation of Eat New Media in association with Notlehs Entertainment. Producers for today's program are Brandon Lay and Joe Shelton. Be sure to join us next time on Moonshine and Music.